And hey, here we are. Okay, everybody, welcome to our Wednesday night cooking class. Tonight we are doing two different kinds of chili. I spoke too soon saying it was getting chilly outside because it's actually warmed up a little bit today. But you know what? It'll freeze just fine, so stick it in your freezer. And for those of you watching on Facebook Live right now, I'm coming to you through my phone because for whatever reason Zoom is not playing nicely with Facebook today. So you're still here, I can still make it happen on Facebook. It's just a little bit of a different camera angle and you can see the actual, the other camera that's being used, but it's still working, so please don't worry about that. So tonight we're making tomatillo chili and also red pecan chili. I know, it sounds interesting for some of you, but we're gonna give it a shot. So I've got two pans on medium, a little bit lower than medium heat here, because they're going to start out in pretty much the same way. So I'm going to get them started in the way that they should go, and then I'll explain a little bit what's going to happen with them later as the onions and the peppers and the other things are cooking. So, of course, first of all, both batches, both the red and the green, are going to get onions. This is going to go like crazy, so woo, yes! So about half of the onions in here, about half of the onions in there. So both get onions, diced onions. They're also both going to get diced up green peppers. So about half in there and about half in there. So right now, they're essentially the same. But what I'm going to start doing now, I'm going to stir this up a little bit and let that cook. So this pot is going to be the tomatillo, the green chili. This pot is going to be the red pecan chili. So here's where it gets a little bit different. The red chili is going to get some diced jalapenos thrown in there because we have a different kind of jalapeno for the tomatillo chili. So jalapenos go in there. And then the red pecan chili also gets mushrooms. Mushrooms and pecans together are going to combine to make a texture that's very toothsome and meaty. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this works out. So stir all of that together. It's going to cook down in there. And I'm going to turn the heat up a little bit since we have all those vegetables in there. And the other thing that this green, or that the red pecan chili is going to get, that the green already has in a different form, is garlic. So we're going to get raw pressed garlic in here for the red pecan chili, and that's going, whoa, right in there with the onions and the peppers and the mushrooms. That's about 2 cloves of fresh garlic put through this little press. And that's going to go into the red pecan chili. So I've turned the heat up on these a little bit since they have a lot of vegetables in there. We want them to cook down. And so that's all the raw stuff that has to go in. So just onions, raw onions and peppers for the green chili. And then it's onions and peppers and mushrooms and garlic for what's going to become the red pecan chili. We're also going to start adding our spices now so that can really soak into the vegetables as they cook. The spices are essentially the same for both. What's going to change is the amount, the quantity for each one. So for the red pecan chili, this is homemade chili powder. Let me show it to you. You can probably even see the fumes coming to you through your camera. The way I make this is I get dried pasilla peppers, dried chile de árbol, which are super hot, and dried puya chilies. And I put them in a coffee grinder, and I just grind them up until it's this nice fine powder. You can adjust it. You can use the dried chilies that you prefer. It's kind of fun to experiment with a combination. This is super hot, mostly because of the chile de árbol. Those are really, really hot little red peppers. You can find milder ones, but where's the fun in that? But in any event, these are super hot chilies. And the pasilla chilies have kind of a smoky flavor, which is nice. And the puya chilies are a little bit of a bright, and again, pretty hot flavor. But it's kind of fun to make your own chili powder. And if you have favorites of yours, then give it a shot. If you have one of those little coffee grinders, it's fun to play around. So both of them, no wait, trying to remember my proportions here. The green chili gets about a tablespoon of chili powder, and the red chili gets about a teaspoon. Okay? So there's for the chili powder. Both of them are going to get a tablespoon of cumin. Cumin is kind of that woodsy, lemony smell and flavor that you will find very, very familiar in a lot of Latin American cooking, and it's also in Middle Eastern cooking a lot. In fact, you can see cumin mentioned several times in Scripture. So there you go. It's a very ancient, widely used spice. So cumin for both. Oh, it's already starting to smell so good in here. I wish you were here. I wish we had smell-o-vision. Someday we'll make it happen. Technology has made leaps and bounds in the past month or so. Woo. It's my kitchen, it's my food, I'm going to use the spoon. I would not do this if I were, actually going to serve this to any of you. I probably would. That's all right. So Mexican oregano, a tablespoon in each one. And that's really going to complement the other spices really well. So we're going to stir all that in. So the vegetables are already starting to get really nice and soft. And the onions and the peppers and the jalapenos and the mushrooms, now combined with all of these different spices, it smells heavenly. It smells like it's going to be some really good chili. I certainly hope so. So, stir all that around. Okay. And the last thing we're going to add, and this is going to be for the red chili that we put this in, and I know it sounds weird, but this is actually a common fixture in a lot of Latin American and particularly Mexican cooking, cinnamon. You find that in mole and some kinds of chili, and you also find chocolate sometimes, cocoa. So just a half teaspoon of cinnamon in with the vegetables and everything for the red pecan chili. And that is about it for the spices until it's time to season with salt and pepper. Well, probably won't need any pepper, there's a lot of chili. So everything is getting all cooked together, very nice and soft. The spices smell wonderful. This comes together really pretty fast if you have the right tools for the job, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. So one of the things I mentioned when we were starting to put all these vegetables into the pots is that this one, which is the green chili one, didn't get any jalapenos, apparently, and it didn't get any garlic, apparently. It's going to, and I'll see if I can make, this does not look appetizing in its state right now. If you can see all the green stuff, okay, I don't know if the people on Facebook can see this. Let me see if I can get this close enough to the camera without, okay. I know it just looks like this weird, murky green stuff, which it is, but what it actually is when I took the broiler out and I put in there some tomatillos that were cut in half and 2 poblano peppers and 2 jalapeno peppers. I wanted kind of a smorgasbord of green peppers in here, along with 4 garlic cloves that were still in their peels. And I broiled them on one side and then flipped it all over and broiled it on the other side so they got really charred and toasty. And then just rub the skins off of the jalapenos and the poblanos. The tomatillos will just squish right out of their peel. And then the garlic cloves, you just pull the peel right off once they're roasted. Let me dig one out here so I can show you. This is what that garlic clove looks like, having been roasted under the broiler. As you can see, it's very dark, which means it's well roasted. It's going to be really sweet and delicious. And so are the poblano and the jalapeno. It's really going to deepen their flavor for this green chili. It's going to be wonderful. So now that we have that, what we'll talk about, and I am going to, what we're going to do is deglaze these pans. What that means is we're going to pour liquid in and scrape up all that good stuff on the bottom. Whenever you saute something in a pan that you want to keep, you want to get all of that stuff that was cooked onto the bottom off, because a lot of the flavor is there. So that's what the broth is for. The chili powder is quite strong, which means we're doing well. So we're going to do that and let it come to a simmer, and then I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the pecans that we're using, because that's kind of important. So we're going to do about 2 cups to start, and bring that up to a simmer in each one of these pots. And you'll see I have the liquid in one hand and my rubber spatula in the other, because I'm going to start scraping like crazy to get all the stuff off the bottom and the sides. So once that liquid hits the pot and it starts to sizzle, it'll just boil all of those solids right off of the sides and the bottom of the pan, and it goes right into the broth. So all of that good stuff ends up right where we want it, which is in the food, and not having to scrape it off and clean it with a sponge later. So this is the red pecan chili right here. So it's the onions, the mushrooms, the green peppers, and the garlic. Okay, we're going to let that simmer. And I'll do another couple of cups here. Luckily, I had some broth to get rid of, so it's not, I do have to open up a whole new one, but I was able to use up some of the other stuff I had, so that was good. Not quite as impromptu a leftover meal as last week's. Alright, so here is another 2 cups of broth. This is for the green chili, and same thing. Pour it in, and when it sizzles, just stir and stir and scrape the bottom and the sides to get all of the good stuff, because that's where so much of that great flavor is. Okay? Pour the rest of it in, and I'm going to turn up the heat so we come to a boil, and then I'll turn it down to a simmer. Okay? Now let's talk a little bit about this pecan taco meat. This is so cool. I don't remember whether I've made the pecan taco meat for this class or not. All of the classes have sort of run together in my mind. But I did do that for myself a couple of months ago, where you kind of soak and then saute chopped pecans like this. It even looks like ground beef, doesn't it? So you soak it and then you saute it with all these same kinds of spices, and you serve it just like taco meat. Well, you can do the same thing when you're making chili as a kind of substitute for ground beef. I was thinking, it had crossed my mind that what I could do was go and pick up a pound of that Beyond Meat ground stuff that's not meat, and then I thought, I'm still not quite sure how I feel about that. I would rather see what it tastes like when we use something that's kind of more in its natural state, which is pecans. So we're going to test that out tonight. These have been simmered for about half an hour with a little bit of liquid amino, which is like soy sauce, but it's a little bit more nutritious. So simmered for about half an hour. It's pretty soft, and it's got some nice flavor to it. And because they're pecans, they'll add a little bit of fattiness to it as well. So we're going to hold this back, because what we're going to do is strain out some of these vegetables from the broth and put them in the food processor with our pecan meat, and that's what's going to give us that very meaty flavor. So we're going to do that in just a minute. And in the meantime, what we're going to talk about here is, this is what goes into our green chili, which is the tomatillos and the poblanos and the jalapenos and the roasted garlic. So we're going to go ahead and pour that in. Okay. We're also going to add in about 1.5 cups, just two pretty good handfuls of spinach. You can also use kale if you like kale, or if you have kale that you need to get rid of. And we're going to stir that in and let that simmer for a while we're dealing with our pecan meat. We're also going to be using my favorite tool on this stuff, which is the immersion blender, and we'll get to that in just a minute. To the white chili, or the green chili, we're also going to add some white beans. These are northern beans. You could also use cannellini. You could probably even use garbanzo beans with this and get a good result. We want something neutral that's going to help keep that really bright, fresh greenness of the green chili. So there's that. What we're going to do now is transfer the pecans to a food processor along with some of these vegetables that are in here. So I'm going to do that now. So here are those chopped mushrooms and onions and green peppers, and I'm just transferring them from this broth that we're using right into the bowl of the food processor. Because it's going to create a mixture, especially with the mushrooms and the pecans, that is going to feel like a good meaty texture, even though there are no animal products in this at all. Now, if you make this, one of the things that you can do, part of the fun of eating chili is deciding what you're going to put on the chili once it's in the bowl. So if you are not, on a strict plant-based diet, that means you could do cheese, you could do sour cream, and if you are on a plant-based diet, you can use vegan cheese. I'm warming up to it a little bit. I'm trying to use up that shredded plant-based mozzarella that I got for our pizza class, and the more I use it up, the more I realize I guess it's better than nothing, which isn't the most ringing endorsement for a food product you've ever heard, but it's better than nothing. So you could use vegan cheese on your chili. They also make vegan sour cream. You could use chopped green onions or avocado if you have it, or whatever you like best on top of your chili, I'm sure would work really well with this chili too. So here's most of those vegetables. And I know you can't see what I'm doing, but I'm going over to the food processor. I'm afraid to move my phone over here with me because I'm afraid that I will completely just knock it over. So I'm not going to do that. Sorry guys. But I will move this camera so you guys can see. You know what? I'm going to be brave. I'm going to be brave, boys and girls, and I'm going to move that. All right. Can you see the food processor? Kind of? Yes. Okay. Can we see? Hello. So I'm over here by the food processor. The vegetables are in here, and now the pecans are in there as well. We're going to set that, and we're just going to pulse it until it's finely ground up. We're not going to puree it. We just want to give it a nice chunky texture. So just like that. It's going to look a lot like ground beef. Let me turn this soup down just a second here, because we're boiling. We don't want our soup to boil. We want it to simmer. Okay. This green chili is so pretty. It's about to get a lot prettier too. All right, so turn down that red a little bit. Okay, so, all right. So, this is amazing, you guys. Wait till I show this to you. Actually, I'm going to scrape it down and do it one more time. We still have some big onion chunks on the side here. But it really does look like chili meat in here. Let me show you. Let me pulse it one more time and then I'll show you what I mean. All right. So check this out. Does that not look like taco meat? It's amazing what you can do with pecans and a little bit of creativity and a lot of other people who have done the work before you so that you can say, hey, this works. So now what we do is very carefully add back our pecan meat, mushroom pecan meat back here. Okay. Oh my goodness. This is so cool. Now that we have this pecan, the ground up pecans and vegetables in here, it looks like a big pot of chili. This is so amazing. Okay? And now we can add the other ingredients that are really going to make it a bowl of red. So, we have a can of diced tomatoes that we just dropped in there. No harm done. And a can of tomato sauce. Now we're looking like chili for real. And a can of pinto beans. You can also use kidney beans. The kidney beans are not my favorite, which is why I decided to go with pintos instead. Boy, my freezer is gonna be jam-packed. Wait until you see this, you guys. It looks like a bowl of Texas Red. Now, if any of my Texas friends are watching this, I will probably get in big trouble for that. But they're probably not watching, so it's okay. Certainly does not need any more broth. I can guarantee you it's going to need salt because I haven't put any salt in any of this yet. I wanted to wait until the whole thing was together before I start messing with that. So we're going to bring that back up to a good rolling, or not rolling, but a good simmer and let the flavors get together. In the meantime, we're going to turn down the heat on our green. Okay? And before we add any more liquid to it, we're going to take our handy dandy immersion blender, and we're not going to puree it. Again, we don't want to do that with this any more than we did with this. We just want to make it a little more blended and a little chunkier and get all those peppers ground up in there. So I'm really trying to concentrate on the jalapenos and the poblanos that are in there because they were almost whole when I put them in. And some of the spinach, I want to get the spinach in there. But I'm doing this very lightly because I don't want to eclipse the texture of it altogether. And I want some of the beans to stay whole too. All right. So that will do for that. Okay. The only thing we need to add now is a little bit more of the broth. And we're going to add the juice from one lime. Limes and tomatillos work really well together. Tomatillos have a pretty neutral but very tart, when they're good, flavor. And lime really amps up their flavor and the tartness, which is really going to be fun in a hot chili. So there's all that. We're going to stir it around a little more. Oh, these are so pretty, you guys. They're so different looking. I bet they would be good on burritos or chimichangas or on top of a platter of huevos rancheros or something. They look fantastic. So let me show you. Let me take a little taste here. I know already the green is also going to need salt. I really do hold off on putting salt in kind of until the last minute, unless something needs salt in order to cook properly, and there are a few things that do. I generally wait, because you never know how that's going to come out later once you've simmered it and added stuff to it and reduced it or put more liquid into it. I always think it's better to wait. And sometimes you have vegetables that will absorb a lot of salt, so you want to be careful about that too. So we've added our salt. Now we've pureed it a little bit. It's got this beautiful, rich, greenish brown color. It looks delicious. This is going to be fantastic. Oh, it's spicy. Woo! Even for me, that's spicy. Hooray! It's going to need more salt. I know that. But even with just the short cooking time, okay, there was some of the stuff had been done before we got started. So the roasting of the vegetables had been done, and the simmering and soaking of the pecans had been done. I also did some of that chopping prep work that tends to take a while, but once that aspect of it is done, 25 minutes is what we have with 2 great big pots of soup. So, quite frankly, I'm impressed. And now, I know that chili purists will say that your chili should sit on the stove and simmer all day long, and that's fine if you have time for that. I'm sure it is better. But let's say you just want to get dinner on the table and it's cold outside and you happen to have this stuff on hand, then by all means, you don't have to wait. I'm telling you, this red chili looks like chili. I'm going to have to get a bowl so I can show you. If you put this down in front of somebody, they would never believe that it had no meat in it. So let's see what they would say if they tasted it, because that's kind of more important, right? Holy cow. This is my favorite chili. It could be more spicy, quite frankly. I would enjoy it if it were, I would enjoy it more if it had more spice. But the flavor, especially the subtlety of that little bit of cinnamon that was in there, is fantastic. And the pecans really pick up on that. So all in all, I think if you served this to someone, they would be mystified in a good way. So let me show you what both of these look like. Let's get a little glass bowl here so I can show you what these look like when you dish them up. If I can find a spoon to do it. So let's look at this red first. You're not going to believe the way this looks. So here's a little bit of the red. I'm trying my, here, you know what? I'm going to tilt the camera down. It's going to steam up the camera. Yeah, so that looks like chili. That looks like, you know, traditional red chili. And I'll do the same with this phone if I can. Let's see if I can do this without dropping my camera into chili. That would be fun to explain, wouldn't it? Ah, no, now you're watching me. I'm not very good at this game, apparently. Okay, so there's the chili. It just looks like a nice bowl. It is a nice bowl of chili, but I think it would take a while for people to realize that it didn't have any meat in it. It's very warming, very hearty. I highly recommend this, and it's a good thing too because you can't really see from here, but this pot is full almost to the top. So I will have lots and lots of chili. This one, there's a little bit less of it, but not much. I'm gonna have to get more storage containers because no way do I have enough to fit all this. This is gonna keep me fed throughout the winter, I think. So that's the red. Now let's have a look at the green. Okay, turn the heat off. So this is a little bit more subtle in flavor and in appearance. But you can see it's like this greenish gold color. Okay, very pretty, very New Mexico green chili looking. Okay, and you can see the little bits of poblano and jalapeno, the spinach, the beans are still, some of them are still whole in there. It looks really good. Very different from the other one. Really spicy. I mean, this is the one you want in the middle of the winter when you can't get warm. This will do it. And you might be wondering why I don't have any side dishes. I do. Because you know what I had in the freezer? I had these little cornbread muffins that we made a few weeks ago when we had our soup. And I just took them out of the freezer about an hour or so before the class started. And they're perfectly thawed out. And they are perfect with the chili. So it's hardly even 6:30, you guys. And the prep work for both, chopping up the onion, the green peppers, the jalapeno, chopping the stuff probably took 10 minutes and setting them aside. Roasting the peppers and the garlic probably took about 15 minutes once the broiler came up to full heat. So if you count how long it takes for the broiler to really come on strong, 20 minutes, probably flipping about halfway through to get the poblanos and the jalapenos and the garlic and the tomatillos, you know, evenly roasted. Those two aspects of it, plus a half an hour or so for cooking and processing it, you have a dinner in less than an hour. Actually, this is many. Because for me, this is going to last a long, long time. This pot, I think, is 3.5 quarts. And this, I think, where it is right now, is at about 2 quarts. This is going to feed me for a while, guys. And I would love to be able to get through it without having to freeze it. But the great thing about chili is it's one of those dishes that tastes even better the next day. And it freezes well. And there's nothing in here that doesn't freeze well. So I imagine a couple of months from now, when it's actually cold, I can pull one of these out of my freezer in a nice little storage container and think, I'm going to be warm at least while I'm eating this. So pretty short class, guys, but a whole lot of food. The recipes are online. I'm telling you, it was really very easy, and none of the ingredients are weird. It's just mostly stuff you have in your house. Cumin, oregano, cinnamon, onions, peppers, beans, tomatoes. The only thing you might have to go and get that you wouldn't have in the house ordinarily are the pecans. That's really it. So I hope you enjoy the recipes. I wish that I could invite you all into my house to eat all of this soup up with me, but I'm with you in spirit just as you're with me. Thank you for being with me tonight. Enjoy the rest of your evening. I hope you're able to make some of this chili and come back to me and let me know how you liked it. Have a great night, everybody, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.